Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin and welcome to another retrospective. I am joined again by my good friend, Mr. Scott Walters. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me.
And we are going to be talking tonight about Believer. And this is a band I only recently got into when I was discovering Christian metal. Scott's been joining me for the past, must be about a year now, off and on. Um,
Something like that, yeah.
Going through I basically discovered Christian metal and discovered a whole bunch of bands I would never have discovered otherwise. And we've been going through band by band. And Believer was a band I did come across, but their albums were just so expensive and impossible to find. I just kind of just didn't worry about it because being a completist, I have this. But then,
Yep, I know that mentality well.
by the grace of God, Bombworks Records released the band's first three albums. So yeah, that was my time to strike, really. And I picked up the other two, and there's
Yep,
some singles that they've released that were download only. But yeah, what what a ground to cover in just five albums. I mean, it's a pretty long time, but there was a hiatus in the middle.
yep.
Excuse me, but yeah, I mean, they're just they kind of start off. They were never just a straightforward thrash metal band in my opinion, but yeah, the first album is a pretty decent. Well, no, it's a great thrash metal album.
Yep.
Then we get experimental on the next two albums, especially the third, and then we get a bit more modern and a bit more technical when the band reformed or rebooted, however you want to phrase it. But yeah, how big were Believer? Were they did they make a big impact at the time? I know on their second
Yeah, I mean, I
album.
got I got into them in well, actually, I bought this compilation back in 88. I think it came out in 88, but I got it in 89. And this is they were one of the bands of six on here. The other bands were Arsenal, Apostle, Rage of Angels, Second Chance, Taker, and the Lead. And all those bands, except for the Lead, are all kind of just more old school, heavy metal or melodic metal. And the Lead was a punk band, so Believer really stuck out. And the song that's on here is called "The Chosen," which was never actually re-recorded or put on another album. But so that's where I got into them. So I couldn't wait for their first album to come out when I had read that REX was going to be putting it out. Um, and then I grabbed the original. Oh, I guess I didn't. I grabbed the repressing of the. I don't. You know what? I need more light. I can't see a dang thing. How's that? Better? Or is
Yeah,
it too much light? Um, yeah. So, Believer. This is their first album. It made a huge impact on me because at the time I was discovering Christian music. It was around 1988. 1989, 1990, and these guys were world class. I mean, they were just as good as any other band I had heard. A lot of the stuff that I had, I was getting in, hearing was like, it was okay. I'm not saying it was bad, but it wasn't necessarily the quality of what I had been used to listening to. And Believer definitely were right up there, along with like Vengeance Rising and Sacrament and some of the other bands I discovered around the same time. So, but they were probably one of the bigger bands because they ended up getting picked up by Nuclear Blast after the first album, and then they ended up touring with Bolt Thrower and Sacrifice from Canada and doing. I think they did a full world tour with them.
yeah. I was reading something about it. Yeah, they did a tour with Bolt Thrower and Sacrifice, and that was 30 plus days. So that was a full tour. Um,
Yeah, and let's see. Oh, I do have the original pressing. It's weird because here's the original pressing. Um, I got an old flyer in there from a show, but there's a
awesome.
song missing from it, which was annoying on the vinyl that was on the CD. Um, they left the song "Stress" off of here, which is one of the more quirky songs, but it's still a cool song. It's kind of
Kind
that
of
song, right? The very
ska.
last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a punk ska vibe to it, but it's still thrash. But yeah, that was just kind of a fun thing. Um, then they, for whatever reason, on the U.S. pressing of the vinyl, it wasn't on there. But thankfully, when it was repressed to vinyl, was it a year ago, 2 years ago, last year?
Yeah.
They, yeah, they included the full track listing. Cool purple vinyl too. I don't know if you saw it. It's like a splatter, purple white splatter vinyl.
Yeah, I probably would have got it, but I had a very short love affair with vinyl. I found it all to be a bit too much effort. Basically, it was the vinyls are too expensive, plus the postage, and then when you get them, you're hard. You feel like you can't touch them or handle it. Scared to play them, and yeah, I'm sticking with CDs. But yours looks
But yeah, it
cool.
was pretty. I was gonna say it's pretty much a straightforward thrash album. A little technical. I mean, it would sacrifice mid era, mid '80s Voivod are probably a good comparison.
Yeah, there's some off kilter, odd timed riffs. Kirk's vocals are quite interesting. He's kind of like the opposite of John Tardy from Obituary. He's got that yeah, he's got that
Mhm.
throaty. It's like he throws his vocals out, but then like pulls them back in, like he's holding the voice back
Yeah,
rather than
not growled, but really
yeah.
raspy, like you said. It's hard to
Yeah.
describe. Yeah, I always liked Kurt Bachman's vocals.
No, but he's got a distinctive voice because as much as the music changes as we go through the catalog, it's his voice that is the consistent thing throughout. So
Right,
it's like you, as different, say, to transhuman sounds to extraction from mortality. You're still listening to Believer because of Kurt's vocals,
right.
and
I mean, they looked like there's a decent picture of the back. Oops, they looked like your typical '80s thrash metal band too. So what just come out in like '88, '89, somewhere
I
in that
think it
area?
was 89. Let me just quickly
Yep, '89. It
89,
says it
yeah.
right on the back cover. But I mean, they quickly followed it up with the second album, and they kind of those two albums are very similar. I think. I don't have an original pressing of that on vinyl. I have an original CD pressing, but um,
It's
yeah,
funny because
original
I
vinyl pressings are
remember
hard to come by.
when you went on to Marty Worm's channel. I forget what it's called now. He's got two, hasn't he? He's got his own, which is Marty Worm, and then they got the other one, the heavy metallurgy
Metallurgy,
or something. Yeah, you
yeah,
was on that,
metallurgy, yeah.
and you had another guy on there who, and he was saying that this is one of his favorite thrash metal albums across the board. It's regardless of
Yeah, they got a bit more techie on here. I
yeah,
mean, it's still thrash, but then I mean, they did that weird Dies Irae, Day of
yeah,
Wrath, which is all violins and opera vocals, and it was very Celtic Frostish, in my opinion. It kind of reminded me of old Celtic Frost,
yeah.
but it also kind of reminded me of again. I don't think Believer ever sounded like Voivod, but it kind of reminds me of how Voivod always experimented with their sound and really didn't give a crap what was popular at the time. And that's kind of what
It's
they did
yeah.
here too.
They don't sound like Voivod, but Voivod's a great. It's the great way to describe. It's a
Yeah,
comparison.
the
It's like
yeah, and then they did what like a
they're the only
song like
band as
U2 cover.
crazy as Voivod. It's or
So
Celtic
they
Frost
didn't
for that
mind
matter.
stepping outside the box because
Mm.
U2 weren't exactly thrash metal. I mean, I remember back in the day, especially in '89, '90, man, thrash metal fans were vicious, man. Everything else was poser music, and Believers like, yeah, we're gonna do a U2 cover, and it was great. I really liked their cover of like a song, and I'm not a U2 fan, but I dig their cover of it.
Yeah,
So
Fear Factory covered one of their songs as well a few years back, and it's funny. Whenever a heavy band, I think POD did one as well. Whenever a heavy band covers a U2 song, they normally pull it off, and normally it kind of makes you want to re-listen to the U2 original because you think that these probably could have been a heavier band if they wanted to be,
right,
you know.
yeah, nice picture of the band on the back too. Again, oops,
Oh, I've
no,
got that one on the back of mine, but
yeah,
yeah. But yeah,
yeah,
pretty much anything that comes out on the gold disc edition, I just get it. It's almost like a stamp of quality as well because
I
Bombworks
also
don't
think
put
they had
out
a
anything, you know.
I also think they had a great I love this kind of stuff too. The mandatory thrash metal
Collage, yeah.
collage. Yeah, the first album has a collage too, but I like this one better because that one was black and white. This one's all in color, and it's got all kinds of cool flyers. And actually, you can see the. Pretty sure there's a Believer in Sacrament, Believer. I'm looking for. I know there was some tour flyers on here from. There it is. Sacrifice, Believer, and Crucifier, and Bolt Thrower. Yeah, there's another one. There's several of them on here. Bolt Thrower, and yeah, so they did quite a few. I can't remember if they played Europe or not, but I know they played Canada and the United States. It was quite a few dates. Pretty sure they did though. I'm pretty sure they played Europe as well.
But
But in
for
any case,
they
yeah,
hit
I don't
when they
know.
hit the road,
The
they
first
hit
two
it
albums
pretty
kind of
hard,
are
didn't they?
bookends. What's that?
When Bolt Thrower hit the road, they did hit it pretty hard. They did do
Yeah.
they did do some touring. That band. It's
But
funny
they
how they
also released
just
a single for this album too, which is the "Stop the Madness" single. It was a CD single, and it went out just mostly. I don't know that it actually was for sale or not, but it had the YouTube cover on it, had the song "Stop the Madness," and then the song "Stop the Madness" was actually an anti drug song,
yeah.
and so there's like a PSA message on here that it's like I don't know, just about a minute long that they could play on the radio station and whatnot. And when we were putting the CD out of this, the one that you just showed, we were trying to get bonus tracks for it and stuff. There are bonus tracks on the first album. I believe it's the demo, maybe.
Yeah, you've got.
Um,
I meant to mention that. So you've got the Chosen, the track that was on the compilation that you mentioned earlier,
Correct.
and you get their 1988 demo, which has the original version of Unite, the opening track, and you also get two other tracks called Return and IYF in Your Face.
Yep.
That I don't know, maybe some riffs were reused later on or something like that, but they're not on the album.
Nope. They
But
were
yeah,
never yet, and they were never really re-recorded. But yeah,
this
that's.
is the
But then
definitive edition in my eyes.
And then the
So
second edition, the second album, we were looking for bonus tracks to put on there, but so we were thinking at the very end we put that little PSA message, but the band asked us not to. They didn't really like it. It was something they were kind of forced to do by the record company. So like, we don't really want that on our album. So it didn't come out on the album at all. So
yeah,
I
and
don't
I
think there
guess
was any bonus tracks on that one.
without any context to it as well, it would be a bit what where did that come
Yeah,
from?
yeah.
Um, but
But
generally, I
then
mean, sorry, go.
as I say, after that tour, the band kind of fell apart with only two original members staying in the band, and then they got several new members before they recorded their third album. Probably, I mean, touring is relentless and tough, so I can figure out that's probably why. And I'm sure that they were the third band on you know an obscure. I mean, not Bolt Thrower are known now, but back in 1990 91, they weren't exactly the biggest band on the planet. So
No,
neither were Sacrifice. All those bands were fairly new, and so I can't imagine they were making a whole lot of money on that tour.
yeah.
Um, but
Before we go into the third album, then, so yeah, Sanity Obscure. Did we say the title of the album? But yeah,
oh
it
yeah,
seems to just it builds up from the ground of the first album, but then everything just kind of opens up, doesn't it? And the
yeah,
technical stuff is more technical. The thrasher stuff is faster and speedier.
yeah, exactly.
But
They just built upon the.
then you get the experimentation, and when you got a song like De Azari, where this is it's practically an opera piece. It's full on orchestral arrangement. You've got a
Yeah,
soprano singer singing in Latin, and she does sing amazingly. This is
yeah, very very well
the
done.
real
Yeah,
deal, and it was someone they knew as well. It's not as if they just got a sample or something like that. No, they brought someone in, and she sang properly. And then yeah, it kind of kicks in with some thrash metal later on, and it does kind of. I mean, it says in the card here, you with these gold editions, you always get a baseball card, and but rightfully so. It says it foreshadowed the operatic approach for future metal bands such as Furion and Nightwish. And yeah, I'd back that up. Definitely the Gathering or bands like that.
yeah. A lot of bands started doing that after not long afterwards. But I I always I mean Celtic Frost kind of did it first. I mean they were doing that kind of thing back in you know what I mean. May not have been as obvious as with an opera singer and everything, but they did have the
Mm.
female vocalists and
They had the
the
backing vocals on
violins and
on the Cycle of the Tyrants album, wasn't it? Then you had the one
Yep.
into Mega.
Into Mega, yeah, into
Yeah.
Megatherion,
Now that
and
album's
then
really weird, but yeah,
yeah, even on Into the Pandemonium,
it's
uh,
Pandemonium. That was one. Yeah.
yeah, there you go, Into Pandemonium, yeah. Um, so anyhow, they lost the drummer stayed and Kurt stayed. Kurt being the main writer, main guitar player, and the vocalist. The second guitar player was gone, and their bass player was gone. They ended up getting another bass player and a violin player. I believe his name was Scott Winters, and gosh, I can't believe I remembered that.
Well,
If that's correct.
I think we should say as well. So Kirk Bachman is the vocalist and guitarist, main songwriter, and the drummer is Joey Daub. Is
Joey
that it?
Daub, yep,
Yeah.
Daub, I believe,
And
yep.
they're the two that have been the mainstay all through the band. We go through some lineup changes as the band go on, but they're the two mainstayers. And so yeah, we're on to the third album, Dimensions. Um,
Yep.
I can see that this album would divide opinion. I think it's probably a masterpiece in some
It's
people's
very
eyes,
different.
and a
I think it's a
disaster
masterpiece.
in others. Yeah, but
It has two different covers too. This is one of two covers.
this is the
Um,
better one. Yeah, I have some.
yes, yeah, there's two. I don't remember. The other one is probably in there somewhere in that booklet. But anyhow, the this is actually an original pressing on Roadrunner records from back in the day. Vinyl pressing. It's actually a promo pressing. It even has a little promo kit inside of it with the band photo and the little sheet. Yeah. Oh, Jim Winters. I was wrong. I said Scott Winters. It's Scott Laird on violins and Jim Winters on bass. I mixed two people's names up right there. So yeah, Kurt Bachman was back. Joey Daub was on drums. Scott Laird on violins and Jim Winters on bass on this one. So yeah, this one is very very techy. Um, moving on. I mean, like even beyond like what Killing Technology had on it, it was even more techy than that. With the very first song being like this multi-part. Where is it? Here it is. What's the name of that song? Oh, actually, it isn't the first. It's the very
No, it's
last
the
song.
last. Yeah, I was
Yeah, Trilogy of Knowledge. But there's still, I mean, despite the fact that they were getting more
a,
proggy, there was still a lot
a
of thrash
trilogy
on
in
it.
four parts, but
Yeah,
it actually gets it's an intro track first. But yeah, I mean that is that's a separate thing on its own. I mean, so the first six songs. I first listened to this, and it wasn't that long ago. I did find it to be just overload, and it took me a while. Yeah, I would say this album rewards repeated listens because it made more sense the more you would kind of get all
yeah,
the weird experimental bit. It was always sort of the intro, and then it would get into the metal, into the meat of it, and it was really good.
yeah. And then there's like I said, there's violins mixed throughout now. There's opera singers or female vocals. I guess it's not opera, but mixed throughout. And but there's other like song like No Apology. That's just straight up, very fast in your face thrash song.
And No Apology as well. That main riff, that reminded me a lot of Death, or what Death would go on to do. I mean, when did this come out? 1993.
1992.
So
Yeah.
yeah, when did like it sounded like something Chuck Schuldiner would have written on like the individual thought patterns or human,
Right. That
that
was like
sort of,
that was mid '90s, so it's probably
yeah, so
after this
around
one,
that
but
time.
still.
But
But also the other thing is the sound quality was very different on this one. You didn't have it was less organic, um, and more digital sounding, and that was intentional. They were experimenting with all this digital stuff they had at the time. And this is 1993, so it's not like they had like you can now. They didn't have any. What's the program everybody uses these days? To record on. They didn't have that available to them. But
mm.
yeah, they were getting all these digital sounds in here. So it's a lot more cold and sterile than the first two albums, in my opinion. Now, whether that's a good or bad thing, I personally like it. But a lot of people when it came out didn't care for it as much. I don't know what you think, but
Well, I think with the type of music it is and the type of song structures, and just with so much going on with the orchestras, again, this isn't just a keyboard set to orchestra mode, or it's not samples that they had a orchestra.
yeah, no, yeah, they
And
actually had, yeah,
so, in terms of recording that with a rock band. I suppose this was the '90s as well. I don't, yeah, I don't get how they would have been able to sort of do it like they would
I
have
don't
done the first album.
I don't think the original pressing had a band photo in it, but this one does. There it is. There.
Yeah, I think we've got that one on the back of the CD.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's the one. That was
yeah. I mean, I
that was a
suppose
part of the
what I'm
original.
saying is, I guess the production suits the album. I don't
I
get
agree.
what.
I agree
Yeah,
totally. Again, I'm comparing them not musically, but to the progression that Voivod had. Voivod started off very raw, thrash. Um, they progressed a lot slower than Believer did, though, because they have more albums and more time. So, but Believer, with every album, they seem like they just progressed into a more they progressed into a more progressive sound. They got more technical and more proggy, and yeah, um, to the point where, well, after that they broke up for a long time, right? I mean, it was years that they were gone.
yeah, and
I
it
can't.
seemed like they did kind of sort of fade into obscurity as well. I mean, you got these three awesome albums that I think anyone that's into technical thrash or even into prog. I mean, if you're into Dream Theater, say,
Right.
absolutely you should check this album out. If you just check this one out on its own.
Yeah,
Um,
even if you just listen to the last song, that you'll at that it's
yeah,
gosh, it's
sorry, we
15.
we we touched on it. Um, let's get into it. So the trilogy of knowledge. You get the intro, the birth, which is just a little 2.5 minute intro, but then you get movement one, movement two, movement three. So the lie, the truth, the key. And yeah, I mean, this is a full on orchestral thing with the music, and
Yeah, orchestra mixed with thrash metal riffs, and you've got a female singer playing one part, and then you've got Kurt Bachman playing another part.
mm,
So I just almost I can't remember all of it, but it's almost like he was playing the evil and she was playing the good,
yeah,
or God versus the devil, or kind of thing. But basically, it's the story. It's the story of the Bible just thrown into 15 minutes.
yeah,
So which is rough, but they kind of pulled it off.
yeah.
So yeah,
Dementia as well has got awesome solo over the violin as well. Really like sort of beautiful melodic solo on Dementia. What track was that? Yeah, track number 3. Um,
I,
yeah,
the
great
hype
stuff.
sticker on the front of the record says, as technical metal goes, Dimensions is an absolute masterpiece of frigid guitar tones, warped riffs, and constant tempo changes. With Dimensions, Believer had born a dense, challenging monolith of progressive metal that few equals even years later. And that was written by that was in Metal Maniacs magazine by Jeff Wagner.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So yeah, there's. But then, like I said, they were gone for a long time. I mean, years. Because what album that came in '93, and then the next album didn't come out until 2020. No, 2009.
Yeah,
2009. Their next album came out. But in the meantime, Kurt had put himself through college and had gotten into some. I don't know what he does for a living, but something to do with medical, and so a lot of change in their lives. So him and Joey Dobb got back together again with a bunch of new members. I don't think any of the guys except for maybe Scott Win. I don't remember if the violin player came back. I'll have to look real quick.
as far
But
as I'm aware as well, this was the same. They came back with a new lineup, but they kept it. I might be wrong, but
let's see
have a look.
here.
Oh,
Yeah,
right. So
Kurt
there are
Bob,
5 piece on this
oh,
on this
Jeff
next
King.
album.
Jeff King was on keyboards and programming. Jeff King came out of the band Sardonyx out of Pennsylvania. 80s metal. Their Sardonyx is still around. Matter of fact, they have a new album coming out this year. New bass player. They had Elton Nestor and a second guitar player in Kevin Lehman, who I believe stayed with the band for the next album and beyond. I forgot this thing came with a poster. Look at that. It came with a little picture of the band poster.
Yeah, Kevin Lehman's the one with the cool dreadlocks, and yeah.
Yes,
So
and Kurt's the one in the front, looking rather bored there. But they're sitting in a
yeah.
pub, and I
So
think
we're
by this time they had also had their own brand of beer that they were making. They were so yeah,
oh
it was
really?
Believer beer. They actually have one of the beer glasses with this particular Believer logo on it that came out around that time.
Oh yeah, look,
A friend of mine
CDs,
picked up for me. Yeah, that's the picture.
and of course this one
But
comes with
anyhow,
a.
that album came out on Metal Blade. Yeah, this is the album cover, and it came out world. This came out on Metal Blade Worldwide, and the album cover is cool. It's actually very similar to Sacrifice, and it's actually the same artist that did the Sacrifice covers of that looks similar to this one. Theirs is a white cover, I believe, and but it's that painted. It's a female all painted, and she's got the horns on and everything. And the Sacrifice, I should have grabbed that Sacrifice to show and compare because that would have been cool to see. But
I'll have to look it up, but yeah, this is from going from again 1993 and now we're in 2009. There's no way a band's going to pick up where they left off. And in a way, it kind of sounds like this would be the band's eighth or ninth album, but we don't we've just lost the albums in between. You know.
yep, exactly.
I think it's got a modern. It feels like a modern album. Feels
Yeah, it's got a lot of
without
thrash riffing
trying
on
to
it.
be jumping on trends or anything like that. But
Yeah, it definitely doesn't sound like any other trendy band at the time. But yeah, it's got some of that thrash metal riffing on it, and you could definitely hear Kurt's vocals are the same.
yeah, and it's
Um,
it's very modern. It's very heavy. But it's just as bonbons as Believer are as well. It's got
yeah,
some crazy moments in it. I mean, what thing completely threw me off was like, wow, he sounds like Howard Jones on this track. And then I looked it up, and indeed, Howard Jones does guest on it. And
yeah,
apparently, it was him that sort of greased the wheels with Metal Blade. Because I can't see how that was, because I don't know what Howard Jones does for a living, like outside of being in bands, because Killswitch Engage were always signed to Roadrunner, and I don't know. I think Metal Blade have been quite kind to Christian metal bands over the years. They've always,
yeah. Oh, they always have been. Yeah, they picked
yeah,
up Mortification. They had Galactic Cowboys, who not weren't necessarily a Christian band, but they definitely had religious overtones. But I mean, even if you go back to the early '80s with this, the early Trouble albums,
mm.
when they were labeled, there was Metal Blade that was labeling them white metal at the time.
Although Trouble have always said that they weren't.
No, they weren't, and they never
Yeah,
were. But that's why. But they went with the white metal tag because they thought the satanic stuff was stupid, so that's why they were doing the biblical stuff.
so
But
they,
then a couple of the guys in the band, like the guitar player and the drummer, were Christians at the time, even when back then they were Christians. So,
mm.
but in any case, much like again like Voivod, it's now it's getting more into prog metal or prog rock and there are some thrashy parts and some thrashy riffing, but I wouldn't call this necessarily a thrash metal album. It's too all over the place to be a thrash metal album at this point, which is why people don't like this one as much. But I actually love this album, but you really have to
Well,
be in. You got to like prog. If you don't like prog rock, it ain't gonna do it for you.
yeah, yeah, but it's not like a Dream Theater album either. It's
No. It definitely
it's hard
sounds
to
like
explain, but
it's uniquely Believer. Again, much like Voivod. Voivod doesn't sound like anybody else, but they kept progressing and getting out of the thrash, getting more into progressive rock. Um, but they didn't lose their identity. They still sound like themselves. It's not
yeah,
like Believer sounds like Pink Floyd or Genesis or something like that,
yeah.
or
The
even like I said, Fates Warning or Dream Theater.
yeah. The only thing wrong with this album though is the ending. I think it should have ended around track 9 or track 10. In fact, track 10 is 8 minutes 50 seconds. So I'm guessing that track 10 would have been like a big epic closer. I think it's track 9 that Howard's on. So yeah,
Yeah, there's some.
and then you've just at the end, it's just well, I don't know what to describe it. It's just dun, dun, it's just
Yeah,
sort of
it's just
samples
it's
and
noise and experimentation but on the vinyl it's interesting because if you look at the vinyl, all that experimentation is on side D,
oh, so you
so
can
you don't
just
have to
yeah,
play the first three sides.
yeah,
But I mean, yeah, it's very experimental. But that 8 minute song is a bit rough in my opinion. But the first what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 tracks are great in my opinion. And I don't even mind the last song, that song "Freedom," that's hidden at the very end.
Oh, I
But
didn't know that it was there,
it's
but yeah.
it's it's so buried. It's way after that, all that nonsense. So, and then they came back. What? How many? Not that long after
So the next album is 2011, and
2011.
just a
So
four
2 years
piece on
later.
this one. So you've got Kirk Backman, and Kirk's done the bass as well as the guitar on this album, and then Joey back on drums, and Jeff King on keyboards, and Kevin Lehman on guitar as well. So Kirk just handled the bass on this one, and they became a four piece. And I really like this album, and I
Oh,
think
this
I
has
might
got a
be
poster in it too.
controversial in saying that. I understand this one rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way because again, it sounded so different, but it sounded a bit more commercial and a bit more accessible. But I think that was kind of a breath of fresh air for me, to be honest. I feel on this album they just kind of got on with it rather than you know all the madness of the last two albums. Because as much as Gabrielle is quite heavy, this can be just as crazy as Dimensions in another way.
Right. Yeah, this
And
one's more, definitely more. I would just describe it as a prog rock album. I mean, barely metal at times. You know what I mean? It's
well, the opening track, "Lie Awake," you could hear that on Planet Rock. Or you could play that alongside a band like Demon Hunter or
yeah,
Disciple or someone like that. Like a
right.
bit more of a mainstream. But "Lie Awake" is a great song in my eyes. Like it's catchy. It's got a really big chorus that you can, it's got a riff that you can just bounce to. Like it's rather than just,
Right.
Yeah, it was to me. Transhuman was it was a breath of fresh air. It was just like, oh, right, this. I don't feel I have to like bend my mind to sort of align myself with it. This one is just straightforward. It's it's
And
an
again, I love
absolute
the artwork.
pleasure.
Same artist that did the last album,
Yeah,
and
so
it's again, it's actually an actual woman painted, and there's multiple photographs of her throughout this one. Uh,
all right.
I think, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not, it's not AI or anything like that. Even the center labels in this one. Well, I can't see them
Yeah.
because of that. Yeah, every see the center labels got pictures of the different different angles of her on there too. Cool, weird looking splatter too.
Oh, you got a band photo there in the back.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like this one. But I can see, I can see, say someone like yourself that was there on day one. You heard them before the first album even came out.
Right.
Um,
I can see why people don't like it too, but I I got to be honest. When this first came out, I was like, ugh. It just did nothing for me, and I kind of basically threw it on the shelf, and forgot about it.
yeah,
But
it
then,
sounds like a separation. If anything, you'd be forgiven to say like, oh, it sounds like Kirk's in a new band,
yes,
and he's just released it as Believer because the record label didn't want to promote a new band or something like that. You hear about that, don't you? They go,
right,
oh, this album was recorded. It was actually meant to be a new project, but then at the final hour, the record label went, "No, we're not. We've in order to promote a band from ground zero again, it's going to take. If we just release it under the name that everyone knows, it's going to sell itself, sort of thing." Testament did that with Demonic. Did you know that
um,
the album,
yes,
yeah, Demonic was meant to be a new band.
yeah, I got it. It's funny because I just got it. I haven't heard anybody say anything about that until just the other day, and a guy came onto my account and he said, "Hey, I saw your I saw you on Nightmare Cabin talking about I think he was mortification. See if I can find that text." And it's funny because he mentioned something about that. He goes, "That's not really true. What it is," and he got into this long explanation. He's a huge Testament fan, so. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Same thing with Black Sabbath. The with Glenn Hughes on it. It wasn't supposed to be a Black Sabbath album. It was supposed to be a
Seven
Tony
Star,
Iommi solo album.
exactly that. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you'd be
or
forgiven for
yeah,
thinking that was the case with this. But
But and yeah, I can't find that text at the moment. But yeah, it's funny. It's just funny because it was just like yesterday. Someone said, "Oh, I saw you on Nightmare Cabin doing Mortification, and you said something about Testament on there." And he's giving me this big old long explanation about it. So I mean, he wasn't being mean. He was just giving me a
oh well, that
more advice.
story
But
about demonic, the person that told me that was told by Gene, so you can argue with him. But
um, yeah, I mean, it was anyhow. Then they they haven't released another full length album since then. But like a year or two later, they actually would have been what 2017, 16. They started recording their next album, and rather than releasing it all at one time, they started releasing it as singles on their Bandcamp. So you can still go to their Bandcamp, which is still there. And it was supposed to be five different. So there's supposed to be two songs on each single.
yep, I've got them.
And
I'm looking on my Bandcamp page right now, and yeah,
yeah,
so and they're called one of five, two of five, three of five. So
then
so
four
far
and
we've
five
got
of five never came.
yeah, yeah. So far
So
we've got 6 songs.
so
Um,
I don't know what happened. And that was gosh, it's got to be going on almost 10 years now, right? I
well, when
mean,
did this come out?
20. It was either 2016 or 2017. So 8 or 9 years.
2017. Yeah. Oh yeah,
So
yeah. It's
yeah, it's
coming. Well, it's coming up to 10 years. Yeah.
yeah, it is. So I just don't think it's ever going to get released, and it's unfortunate because I just don't care about digital music and I never listen to it. So I'd love to have it, but man, the sound changed drastically again on this one, in my opinion, on these songs. Again, very proggy, very much not thrash anymore.
I think it was a. I think it was a logical follow up to
Yep.
Transhuman, though. I think it follows on quite nicely.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think it also should be mentioned that on Transhuman and what was the other one? Gabriel. They were no longer doing the they no longer had the blatant Christian lyrics anymore either. They were more doing stuff in science and science fiction and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
but I think Transhuman does sort of explore certain things that you know that cause concern, if you know what I mean. Like you've got
yeah,
songs like
they
Multiverse, and obviously we're talking about transhumanism, and
yeah they talk and there's a bunch of quotes on the inside from Albert Einstein and um, so yeah they were definitely walking a different path
then again,
musically. I mean lyrically.
what was their approach to it? I guess, but
And I don't know them personally, so I have no idea. I just know the lyrics are much more, you know, science based and uh, science fiction based and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
um, I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing either, though. I mean, but I'm not one who's against listening to music outside of. We were talking before the camera went on. You had a friend who was only allowed to listen to Christian music, so I understand some people won't listen to stuff that doesn't have the Christian lyrics. But to me, there's lots of things to sing about other than just your faith.
oh, exactly, yeah, yeah, and it's
So
not
anyhow,
it's not as if they've gone full on deicide or something like
no.
that.
Yeah,
But
but yeah, that was it. That was they did those 6 songs, and we haven't heard from them again since then. Although I've heard, and this is a rumor, but I heard that Kurt was having some medical issues, and that was kind of the issue. But that's the last thing I've heard.
right, okay, yeah, all right. Well,
Um,
hopefully he's doing well, and yeah, hopefully they do get to finish the project, and even if these songs do get just released on a CD, even if it is just the 6, I mean, I'm sure someone somewhere
yeah, I
can
would.
pull that together. But
I know the label that put out all the other released all the other albums, which is Bombworks. Is that what it was?
yeah,
Bombworks.
Bombworks. And,
Also inquired about releasing those too, but I believe they were told that they were eventually going to be finishing up the rest of the songs, so they didn't want it released yet. So, but hopefully that actually happens. We'll see.
it's a bit like the Watchtower album. I did a retrospective on them lately, just recently, and they put out a EP, And basically, their third album, it's just been a nightmare getting it recorded. They've attempted recording this album 3 times, and so far they've managed to cobble together an EP.
Yeah,
And
I get it. It's not easy sometimes dealing with different members and different personalities, and yeah, I get it.
yeah, concept of maths. I think the album was meant to be called Mathematics or something like that. And but yeah, so far we've got concept of math book one, 5 tracks, and that
And
was
who was singing for him on that?
that
Was
was
it Alan
nine
Tecchio
nine.
or
No,
or
so you've got yeah, Alan Techno is on the EP,
yeah, that's what I thought.
but the original singer's back in them now. Jason McMaster.
Master, yeah. That
Uh,
guy's so versatile, man. He can sing. I mean, Watchtower and Dangerous Toys, man, that is two separate animals. And he sounds great in both, but he's done so many other bands as well that have been out there. He recently just did a show with Dirty Looks, filling in on, well, obviously the Dirty Looks singer passed away several years ago. So he filled in on vocals and he sounded fantastic.
Igniter as well is another band he's in. Check them out. They
Yeah,
put
and he
out
was
an
in another band
album
that's
last year called Horns and Hammers.
what's his other band? Because I have several albums by his other band, but I can't remember the name at the top of my head. What is? Why is it you turn on a camera and you get stupid? Broken Teeth.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
it. Broken Teeth, which is kind of a dirty, I don't know, grungy, kind of like Dangerous Toys, but less commercial.
Would you say
Big
there's
ACDC vibe.
we've been comparing Believer, coming back to Believer, comparing them to Voivod a lot. Do you think there's also elements of Watchtower in Believer's sound or
Oh yeah, for
comparisons?
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Watchtower were one of those early, pushing the boundaries of prog and thrash together. So definitely. And
Yeah.
I have no idea if they were actually fans of them or not, but you can definitely hear some of that sound in their sound.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a massive fan of Death and Control. Chuck Schuldiner, so Death and Control Denied. And when I heard Watchtower, it was like, oh, now it makes sense. It's
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, we plow through that pretty quick. Like I said, there's a lot of time going past in the band, but yeah, it's a case of quality over quantity with this band, I'm afraid, but a great band nonetheless that's worth talking about. So yeah, it really is
There's a,
kind of a game of two halves. You got the trilogy to begin with that just expands and then expands again. Then we have a big break, and then we get a double hit of sort of progressive heaviness, shall we say?
yep.
And then yeah, we got these digital downloads. So 6 songs in total, but in 3 parts, so two tracks at a time, which is available on the band's Bandcamp page. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. So if you are interested, I think it's worth checking out. And if you're a fan of Transhuman, it does follow on nicely from that. Sorry. So yeah, that was
That's
Believer.
yeah. That was a short one. Mortification had just a few more albums,
Yeah,
so it took a little longer. But
yeah, we
yeah,
so yeah, we'll have to do a longer trek of albums next time round. But
maybe we
we've
could
got
do
plenty of
maybe
bands to cover.
we could do Tourniquet. That's a long one.
Yeah, the thing is with Tourniquet, you're going to have to take the driver's seat on that one because I've only got a couple of their albums. I've got 4, maybe 5 of their albums, and I love Flood, the band.
Right,
Some Tourniquet original Tourniquet members that have formed a new band.
right. Yeah, they put two albums out now,
Two
but
fantastic albums.
from
But
what I understand, though, they're now called Tourniquet again.
yeah, I think they're doing. I think they're doing both. They're either doing Flood and they're doing Flood, but then they do a Tourniquet tribute, and I think the other singer from Tourniquet joins them as well,
Luke
something like
Easter,
that.
yep.
And
Yeah, those first three Tourniquet albums are essential in my opinion. They're fantastic.
I've got those 3. They're all right, but the rest, I mean, there was one. It's like 70 quid.
Ooh,
and that's before the postage comes into it, you know. But that's Discogs for you.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, generally speaking, I want to review what I've got. But like I say, if you do want to do Tonica, I'm up for it. I mean, I can listen to it. It's all on YouTube or whatever. But when it comes to showing stuff off, I'll let you take the
Yeah,
driver's seat on that.
I could pull it off my
Yeah,
shelf, and yeah, we can talk about it. But
I like it
cool,
when you
yeah,
come on because you always do. You know, you've done the homework. I don't. I can just you know.
and the thing is, it's not really even homework. It's just I
You
just
like, yeah,
these
yeah. I
bands.
saw them. I played
Yeah,
with them. I've worked for. I've done an album layout for them. I was like, there you go. You can tell we. I don't
yeah.
have to make
That's the
notes.
thing. Is
And
just they were just all these bands were literally just a part of my life, you know. So yeah, another one would be fun to do, which is I don't know how if you're really into them or not, but not a Christian band, but Hades. I'd love to do a thing with them someday. Do you have any of their stuff?
I know. Oh, there's a record label, The Crypt, something Crypt. They do a lot of. Oh, I've got one of their albums here. Hold up. Oh, that's wedged in. Oh. Dark Symphonies and Darkness Descent. But they do a lot of reissues,
Oh, the first two
and they've done a
the
couple
first
of
two albums were just
Hades
recently.
albums.
Yeah, the first two were just recently reissued. They're just great '80s thrash metal. But the singer is, the singer who went on to sing for Watchtower,
That's
Alan
right.
Tecchio.
Yeah, I knew there was a connection there. I was like Hades. There's a connection to another band there, and yeah, you're right. The singer on the second album
Yep,
was in Hades,
exactly.
wasn't
And
he?
on the EP, yep, exactly. Anyhow, I'm just a huge fan of that band, and they just seem to get no love anywhere. So, but they're similar to Believer in that they put out two great albums plus a live album, gone for a long time, and then came back, and they recorded like five studio albums after they came back. So, um, but there was uh, while they were gone, the singer and the guitar player they were in another band together for a while, and now the guitar player is in a fantastic doom metal band called Patriarchs in Black, who I just was listening to, but I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got that.
Anyhow,
So we could do Tourniquet. You could do Sacred Warrior.
that's another one. Yep,
Yeah. Baron Cross. You like them?
yep, absolutely. Have everything by him.
Yeah, there's another one we can do. So yeah, we've got plenty to get on with. So yeah, we'll get you back on the show soon. And yeah, what you been up to anyway? You got anything exciting to tell us? Got anything coming up? Any cool
Oh my gosh,
reissues? And
I've got so many albums I'm working on at one time. I can't even keep up with it all. We just, I got some stuff that just came in I could show you that may or may not be interested in, but here's a few of them sitting here. This is, and they're on vinyl and CD, but this is a School of Violence. It literally just came out. It was a reissue of an '80s crossover thrash band, and the singer is Carl Argel, who went on to sing in
Social
Corrosion of
Conformity.
Conformity.
Yeah, I
Yes,
interviewed him. Yeah,
this is
cool guy.
fantastic thrash metal album. Definitely crossover sound though, but really, really well done. And this was just reissued and re-released. And I got to work on that. And then this is now everybody hates, but I don't think anybody's actually even heard it. But this is the Morbid Angels. I always have a hard time with pronouncing this one.
Insanus Illud Insanus.
Elude Divinum Insanus, the
Yeah.
remixes. So what it is not necessarily. So Morbid Angel put out the album Elude whatever that everybody hated for some reason because it wasn't exactly death metal anymore. So I get it. But what this is a bunch of industrial bands came out, took the album and the tracks and remixed them into these really cool industrial sounding songs. So it's literally 31 or 32 tracks on here,
Mm.
and it's all different death metal. Industrial bands remixing those songs, and there's actually several of the songs that are the same in here. Like there's, I don't know here. Like the song "Too Extreme," there's probably like six versions on here, but none of them sound like each other because they've just taken them and they've created a whole new sound. I thought it was cool and interesting, but Apparently, death metal fans don't like it as much, but
No, that
that's
that
actually a
was
six.
that was the
That
St.
again,
Anger of death metal, that album. But
yeah, but
it was
it's
funny
again
because
this.
I remember at the time when it came out, and I think if you take the industrial songs off, you've got an EP's worth of good Morbid Angel. I like the song 10 More Dead. That was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
there's
But
several versions of that on here that are
they had a
now
new guitarist with them as well called Violator or something like that. And
something like that. Yeah,
he wrote two songs for the album, and his two songs are good. But it seems like David Vincent got the blame for it all, when in fact it was Trey that wanted to take the band in that direction, and then David got the flack for it all, but it was actually Trey.
I've heard people say it's like the worst album ever recorded. Is but I don't. I just don't. It's not definitely not a great album, the original one, but the worst album ever recorded. I can think of plenty that are worse than that. But
Yeah,
anyhow, this just came out too.
whatever.
The very first Anger is Art album finally got a reissue. That thing was so hard to find.
Yeah,
And
I
if
think
you
I've
don't know
seen
who
a.
Anger is Art is, it's Steve Gaines from Abattoir, Bloodlust, and then two of the members from the drummer and the lead guitar player from Evil Dead, another LA
Oh
thrash
yeah,
band. So that's what Anger is Art is. This album is just vicious, and I'm glad it finally was reissued on vinyl and CD. And then this one just came out. This is Mass.
oh yeah, heard a
This
mess.
is officially was their first full length album. It actually wasn't their first full length album. Their first full length album was recorded in '83 with Tom. Gosh, was the guy who recorded the Judas Priest albums? Tom Screaming for Vengeance, and was the same producer that did Screaming for Vengeance '82
Yeah,
was
I'll
also
quickly
recording
look
this
it
album
up.
at the same time. Tom, anyhow, he did the first album, but then they were on A&M Records, and the album got shelved due to management issues, and it never got released. So a couple years later, they finally got re-signed to RCA Records, and this was their first album called New Birth. So anyhow, this is remastered with an expanded book, and again, as much like this gold, it's got a card in it and a bonus track on it that was recorded and not released on the original album. So I mean, those are just a few of the things that I've worked on recently, but I'm not even kidding. I've got a list of like 100 albums I'm working on all at one time. Not all of it's metal. I mean, I do a lot of metal, but I've done a couple of rap albums recently. I've done a couple of country albums recently. Done some CCM stuff and some alternative, but I just really got this blues rock album. Rex Carroll band, White Car's guitar player. He did this solo album back, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, and they reissued it with two new tracks on it and remastered. And it's to me, it's like ZZ Top um, with Eddie Van Halen soloing on it in it because he's got that Eddie Van Halen style in his guitar playing. But yeah, so
Well, this
I
is
mean,
it, man.
literally, if I do this,
It
you
is
can see
Tom Allen, by the way. Yeah,
that pile of this pile of CDs right here that you see. That's all stuff that I've worked on in the last 6 months.
That's the last 6 months alone. Yeah, that's not the whole.
Yeah, it's crazy how much stuff that I've been working on. The labels that I work for are just going nuts, which is great because I mean that's how I make my money. So I'm glad for it. But
This is it, man. You
uh,
you you took a chance, you took a leap of faith, and you went for it, and there you are. You're doing it, man. You're killing it. So
yeah,
good luck to you. And yeah, all right, man. Well,
right
it's
on.
great having you as always.
Yeah, always good catching up
Recommend.
with you too.
And yeah, go check out Scott's channel. And have you got a website you can go to as well for your work or anything like that? Are you still doing No Life Till
You can
Metal?
find
Or?
me on Facebook under Scott Waters. You can find me on Instagram. I also have the No Life Till Metal graphics page on Facebook where you can see some of my artwork and my covers and layouts and stuff like that. Um, I also still have the No Life Till Metal website. It's up, but basically that hasn't been updated in years. But you can go directly from nolifetometal.com to my YouTube channel or to my Facebook page or Instagram or any of those kind of places. So
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, that was it, folks. Believer. What do you think of
Believer.
Believer? What's your favorite album? What album do you hate? What album do you think is underrated? What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? What do you think's an underrated song? And most importantly, have you ever seen Believer live? That's what I want to know. Let us know in the comments. And until then, I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much, folks. Take care.